Something changed in Equitosi. She was no longer the quiet, smiling wife who knelt down to serve food. She now walked around the house with her face squeezed like someone who drank bitter water. She no longer greeted her husband with joy. She stopped kneeling. She stopped smiling. Innocent noticed it, but he didn't say anything. He just became more silent. The house became a cold place. No laughter, no peace. One morning, Innocent was dressing up for work. He looked at the table. There was no breakfast. He came out of the room and asked softly, "Equitosi, didn't you cook anything?" She hissed loudly, "Am I your housemaid?" Innocent blinked. He was shocked. "What did you say?" "I said I am not your housemaid," she shouted. "Every day you go and drive taxi, come back and expect food. Do I eat stones? Do I eat sand? You don't even give me money for anything. You treat me like I am your slave." Innocent stood there, speechless. It was the first time she spoke to him with such anger. His mother heard the noise from her room. She quietly opened the curtain and peeped through. She didn't come out. She just watched from behind. Equitosi continued shouting, "You think because I came from a poor family I will die in your house? You think I don't have choices? Let me tell you, I regret marrying you. I regret it." Innocent didn't shout back. He simply picked up his car keys and walked away. As he drove his taxi through the streets of town, tears dropped from his eyes. He wiped his face quickly so his passengers wouldn't see. Is this how marriage is? Why did I agree to this? I was fine when I was alone. That evening, he came back home quietly. Equitosi didn't come to welcome him. She didn't warm his food. She didn't even open the door. He opened it himself and went inside. He saw the food pot still cold. When he lifted the cover, it was empty. He walked to the bedroom. She was lying on the bed with her face to the wall. "I'm hungry," he said softly. She turned and shouted, "Then go and eat your car." Innocent was tired. He sat on the floor and buried his head in his hands. Suddenly, her voice changed. "I'm not your mother. I'm not one of those people you can control with silence. If you want to live like a stranger in this house, then get ready. You will see fire." From that day, Equitosi changed completely. She stopped doing anything in the house. She stopped washing clothes. She stopped cooking. She stopped greeting his mother. If anyone corrected her, she would shout, "If I die today, my spirit will fight all of you. You people brought me to suffer." Innocent's mother said nothing. She watched. She observed. She took note. But she said nothing. Sometimes, at night, Innocent would cry quietly. He would sit outside alone, looking at the stars. The neighbors began to notice that the house was no longer peaceful. People whispered, "Ah, that man's new wife is like fire. Did you hear her voice last night? She wanted to break the door." And the worst part? Equitosi started locking the bedroom door. If Innocent came home late, he would sleep in the sitting room. She would say, "You're not the one that paid for this room alone. It's also my house." Days turned to weeks. Peace became pain. Smiles became noise. Love became fear. But Innocent said nothing. He was dying in silence. Days turned into weeks. Innocent was no longer the happy young man everyone knew. His taxi became the only place he found peace. He would drive from morning till late night, just to stay away from home. But no matter how far he went, he still had to return. To that house, to that woman. One rainy night, Innocent returned home late. The roads were muddy, and he was soaked from head to toe. He knocked gently on the door. "Equitosi," he called. "Please open the door. It's raining." He knocked again. No reply. He kept knocking. After 15 minutes in the cold, the door finally opened, but not gently. Equitosi opened it with anger in her eyes. "Where are you coming from?" she shouted. "I had passengers," Innocent said, shaking with cold. "I dropped the last one just now. Do I look like a fool to you? So because you drive taxi, you now sleep with your passengers?" Innocent was shocked. "God forbid," he cried. "I can never do such a thing." She pushed him hard on his chest. "Don't shout at me." Innocent staggered back. "I wasn't shouting. he said softly, wiping his face. Before he could step inside, she slapped him. Pa! The sound echoed in the compound. Innocent held his cheek. He didn't raise his hand. He just looked at her with tears in his eyes. Equitosi, you hit me. Yes, and I'll do it again if you mess with me, she screamed. You think I'm your mother that will kneel for you? I'm not your slave. He walked past her silently. He didn't say another word. He went to the small corner of the room where he kept his wrapper and lay on the floor. His mother was in her own room. She heard everything but still said nothing. She held her chest and wept quietly. The next morning, Innocent had a bruise on his face. A neighbor saw it and asked what happened. He smiled and said, I fell in the bathroom. But it was a lie. He was covering for his wife. Equitosi continued with her bad behavior. She insulted him in front of people. She called him names. She would throw things at him and even break cups and plates. And one night, something worse happened. They had a small argument about money. I don't have enough today, Innocent said. Please, manage this. Manage what? She shouted. You think I'm one of your taxi tires that you patch? She picked up the bucket and threw it at him. It hit his leg. He held his leg and cried in pain. Then she did something no one expected. She picked a broomstick and beat him. Pap, pap, pap. She chased him around the room, beating him like a child. He didn't fight back. He didn't raise a hand. Because when he was young, he saw his father beat his mother. He saw the tears, the blood, the pain. He had made a vow to never beat any woman. So he just ran from her blows. He ran into the sitting room and locked the door. He sat on the cold floor, hugging his knees, crying like a baby. He whispered to himself, I can't take this anymore. But I can't hit her. I can't tell anyone. They'll laugh. I'm a man. Who will believe me? Even my own mother. She's watching, but she says nothing. He cried himself to sleep that night. In the morning, his eyes were red. His back had small marks. But he still went out to work. Still driving his taxi. Still greeting people with a smile that hid his pain. No one knew that behind that smile was a broken man. A man who was being beaten in his own home. A man who was laughed at by his own wife. A man who was dying in silence. And as each day passed, the beating continued. The insults became louder. The bruises became more. But his voice became smaller. Because his silence was louder than any scream. The sun beat down hard on the roof. But the fire inside Innocent's house was hotter. Not the fire from the cooking pot, but the fire from a troubled heart. Innocent had just returned from the mechanic. He fixed the engine, spent the little money he had left, and came home tired and hungry. As he stepped into the house, he smiled weakly. Equitosi, I'm back. Hope your day is going well. She didn't answer. She was lying on the bed, pressing her phone, chewing gum. Her face looked like thunder. I'm hungry, Innocent said. Did you cook? She turned her eyes slowly and stared at him. Do I look like your housemaid? No, but I thought maybe since it's Sunday. Pa. Before he could finish, she threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall. Don't teach me how to live my life, she shouted. Go and cook for yourself if you're hungry. Innocent stood still. His hands were shaking. His heart beat faster. I just asked a simple question, he said slowly. Then go and ask your mother to come and cook for you, she barked. Maybe that's what you brought me here for, to come and suffer in a poor man's house. Her words were sharp like knives. Tired, Innocent walked to the small corner of the room and sat on the floor. He couldn't afford a chair anymore. She had broken the last one during one of her angry moments. He took off his slippers and placed them neatly. Then, without thinking, his stomach growled loudly. Grr. Equitosi laughed loudly. You can't even feed yourself. What kind of man are you? Ordinary, Gary, you don't have. What are you even using your money for? Or are you giving it to one of your girlfriends? Innocent didn't reply. He wanted to cry, but the tears refused to come out. He laid his head on the bare floor. His back ached from all the beatings. His eyes were red from no sleep. His heart was heavy. He remembered the vow he made when he was just a boy, never to raise his hand on a woman, never to become like his father. So even when Equitosi raised her hand again, and slapped him, and pulled his shirt, and bit his arm, he didn't fight back. He didn't even shout. He just sat there, quiet, broken, alone. And that night, while she snored peacefully on the bed, Innocent sat in the corner holding his bruised arm. He whispered softly to himself, "I'm still a man. I won't raise my hand. But how long can I live like this? Will anyone ever see me? Or will I die in silence?" No one saw his pain. No one heard his cries, because his pain was hidden in the walls of his home. His wounds were covered by his silence, and his tears fell only when no one was watching. But deep inside him, something was changing, slowly, quietly, like a fire about to explode. The sun had not yet risen. The sky was still dark. Innocent was already awake. He sat at the corner of the room, the same place he had slept the night before, on the cold floor with only a thin wrapper covering his legs. He was not sick, but his body felt weak. His heart was heavier than ever. Equitosi was snoring loudly on the bed, wrapped in the thick blanket he had bought with his hard-earned money. The same bed they once shared as husband and wife now felt like a war zone. He no longer went near it. Even the scent of her perfume now reminded him of pain. He stood up slowly, careful not to make noise. He picked his Bible, the one his mother gave him when he was 18. The pages were old and torn, but the words inside still gave him strength. He opened it and whispered, "Lord, please, I don't want to break my vow, but I'm dying slowly. Save me." Suddenly he heard footsteps. It was Equitosi. She got up from the bed, stretching her hands. "So you're reading Bible now, ABI?" she said with a mocking smile. "Maybe you should ask that Bible to bring food into this house." Innocent didn't say a word. "I said something," she shouted. Still no reply. Then she walked toward him, stood in front of him, and hissed, "You are just a big fool. Do you think you can use silence to control me? Look at you, see how useless you've become. You don't even look like a man again." Those words, they cut deep, but still he said nothing. So she pushed him, hard. He fell against the wall. She picked the Bible from the ground and threw it into the cooking pot that was empty. "Your God cannot save you." Innocent stood up, slowly, quietly. His eyes were full of tears, but his hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a strange fire he had never felt before. For the first time he raised his voice. "Stop it." She laughed. "Did you just talk to me?" "I said stop it." "You will beat me?" she mocked, drawing close to him. "Come and beat me, Innocent. Let me see." He raised his hand. Halfway. Then he froze. His hand dropped slowly. He ran out of the room. He ran and ran down the road. The wind slapped his face. His heart was racing. He stopped at a small bush path near the stream, fell to his knees and screamed. "Ah!" Birds flew from the trees. Tears poured from his eyes. He punched the ground. He screamed again. "Why me?" But the sky did not answer. Only the wind blew. He sat there for hours, his body shaking. He remembered his mother, her strength, her sacrifices, how she warned him to pick a good woman. He remembered his vow, the promise he made never to hurt a woman. But now he wondered, should I keep dying to keep my promise? He walked back home before sunset. As he opened the door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Equitosi was not inside. On the table, he saw something that made his heart jump. A note. He picked it up and read slowly. "I'm tired of this poor life. You are a useless man. I'm going back to my parents' house. Don't come and look for me." His hands dropped the note. The house felt colder. But deep inside, a strange peace began to rise. She was gone. No more beatings. No more insults. No more broken plates and torn shirts. Just silence. But not the painful silence. This time, it was freedom. He fell to his knees again. He wept. But these tears were different. They were tears of relief. 3 days had passed since Equitosi left the house. Innocent had not told anyone. He continued driving his taxi, eating dry bread with water, sleeping alone in his quiet room. The pain was still there, but it no longer carried the weight of fear. One afternoon, as the clouds gathered above and the air smelled of rain, a knock came at the door. It was his mother. She walked in slowly, holding a small food flask. Her face was tired. Her wrapper was old, but her voice was still strong. "Innocent, my son." He looked away. He didn't want her to see the tears already forming. "I heard that Equitosi left." He didn't answer. She sat down beside him, opened the food flask, and placed it on the small table. "I cooked okra soup. You have not eaten well in days." Still no reply. His mother sighed and held his hand. "My son, I know you are hurt. I know you are angry, but I want to say something you may not like." He looked up slowly. "You are the reason she acted that way." Innocent blinked, shocked. "What do you mean, Mama? What do you mean?" She continued. "You were always quiet. You never spoke. You never corrected her. You never led her. A woman needs a man to guide her with love and patience. But you were too afraid of becoming your father, so you became nothing. Just a shadow." Innocent stood up. "But she beat me. She insulted me. She destroyed everything." "Yes," she said, "and I do not support that. But sometimes, people act badly when they feel unloved, unseen, or unled. You married her and left her to grow wild without water. You were there but not really there. That is not how marriage works." Innocent sat down again. His heart was heavy. "So what do I do now?" His mother smiled sadly. "Go and meet her parents. Talk like a man. If she returns, this time be her husband. Not her slave, not her wall. Let your silence speak, but let your words guide too. Forgive, but don't forget the lessons. Marriage is not about winning. It's about understanding." Innocent nodded slowly. That evening, he washed his only good shirt, cleaned his shoes, and headed to Equitosi's village. He met her parents. He saw her. She was surprised to see him. He knelt down. He didn't beg like a weak man. He spoke like a man who had learned something. "I was wrong in many ways," he said, "but I want us to try again. If we both agree to change." Equitosi didn't reply immediately, but her face softened. Her father nodded. Her mother sighed. And that night they returned home, together. There were still problems ahead. But this time, Innocent was no longer dying in silence. He was learning to live by speaking softly, loving strongly, and leading gently. The end. Moral lesson. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes, it is fear hiding in quietness. True strength is not in shouting or fighting. It is in knowing when to speak, how to act, and when to lead with love. Marriage needs two people willing to learn, to forgive, and to grow. Don't suffer in silence. Speak, forgive, and grow.